first update on the Reef LX 290.6. So far to date, our tank is currently in the middle of its cycle. The aquascape is done. I've added a few fish. So I went out and purchased a couple clownfish, because clownfish are pretty hardy fish when it comes to cycling. I also started off the cycle with ammonium chloride, and I've been using Microbacter 7 to help with cycling as well. So you could probably see some tangs in there swimming around, but I went ahead and added my tangs because tangs tend to have aggression with each other when there's multiple tangs in a tank. So I decided to add them all to the box at the same time, so that way they can kind of establish their territory together. And so far so good. They've been getting along with each other pretty well. So if you can see my blue powder tank over here, he's one of the more recent additions that have been added into the 150, but I had to get him out of there because I have a clownfish. Yeah, it's pretty large in there, and he was getting pretty beat up. So ever since he's been added in here, he's been doing pretty good and getting along with the other fish. So as for the equipment, I've got the 3 XR30s mounted at the top. 2 of these XR30s are Gen 6s. These are the XR30 blues, and then the XR30 in the middle is a Gen 5. Ecotech recently announced a new lens for the Gen 5 and Gen 6 that I also purchased, and it's supposed to help increase your PAR in deeper aquariums. So I do have an Apogee PAR meter, and I will be reviewing those once I can get those installed. I'll provide PAR measurements based on my current settings on how the tank is set up, both at the top and the bottom of the tank, and after the install as well. So as for equipment, we come over here. I've got a Windows tablet. This tank is powered by GHL. This Windows tablet stays up, so I'm able to monitor my parameters on a daily basis. So as for everything else that I'm running, if you look in the back, you can see 2 energy bars right there. I've also got 2 energy bars down at the other side of the tank. Those are GHL Power Bar 6s. If I remove the controller cabinet, I've got a GHL expansion box, and the actual Profilux 4 unit sits down in the basement. I've got the Profilux 4 expansion box up here. When I initially ran my cables, I ran some cables downstairs to a saltwater mixing station, and pulled those up here. And so right now GHL is doing the auto top off for the tank. I'm running the Gyre 350, or I'm sorry, 330 cloud controller. And one thing I learned about the Gyre 330s is, and the 330s I didn't realize were only for 1/2-inch glass. So I did some research because I didn't want to go out and purchase 350s, because the 350s were only made for 3/4-inch glass, which is what this tank currently runs. So they didn't hang. So luckily I was able to find the 350 magnetic base, and I took a shot and went ahead and bought those. I think I put them up, and they've been hanging on a tank and doing serving their purpose ever since. So back to the controller cabinet. Inside the controller cabinet, I've also got a GHL breakout box. That GHL breakout box is wired up to the Reef Breeder's return pump. That way the Profilux 4 is able to control it. So inside the sump, I'm also using the Reef Breeder's skimmer as well, and I actually have to give this skimmer props. I believe this is it's either the 400 or the 450 model, but it kicked in pretty darn quickly, man. So I've been skimmer, I think within a day was already producing skim bait a day later. So for the price of what I paid for this, I mean, it can't be beat. Also on the Reef Breeder skimmer, I also run a Vast Marine Swabby as well. It's been working flawlessly with no issues. I'm also running ozone on this tank emergency drain. So the primary drain runs into a Red Sea Reef Mat 1200, and then I also purchased a Reef Mat 250 as well for the secondary drain. You can see this is the refugium area. I do have a new light that I had purchased for the refugium because I'm ever since the tank cycling, my nitrates are up around like 60 parts per million right now. So I'm going to try, this is just a Chato Grow Lights, the Toonsy one from my 150. I decided to give it a shot. It's been in here for probably about a week to 9 days now, and the Chato is still alive, but it really hasn't grown. It's just been kind of sitting still. So I'm gonna try to use a different light. I purchased a Kessel H160 for this. That light actually falls under the bulk reef supply recommended lights for refugiums, and I was actually quite surprised that there really isn't a whole lot of information out there on that light on YouTube. So I will be providing a review. Some other updates that's going on. You can see my auto top off is kicking on right now. So the sensors for the auto top off for the GHL is right here. It's kind of hard to see, but it's that right there. I also have my GHL probes locked in. It's in the return chamber as well. But the GHL probe, it has been rock solid. I've actually had the salinity probe in a few different areas of the tank. The probes were first located over here before I decided to move them. And the only reason I moved them is because I installed the Reef Mat 250 after the 1200, and I needed room to be able to get the 250 installed for easy access and changing out the fleece once it cleans up. But with the skimmer running, their probe has given me no issues on salinity wise. I'm also in the process of installing my UV. This UV is a Lifeguard Aquatics UV. It's the Pro Max 55 watt, and I'm waiting on some more parts to come in. I had it connected, but the manifold that I decided to make, and we'll jump over here now. The manifold that I decided to make with WaterBox, the WaterBox did include a manifold, but it only includes like 2 components to where you can hook up additional reactors, and there's some of the parts that I'm getting ready to use for the new build on the manifold. But my manifold, the first one I built, it works. There are no leaks until you turn it on. And what's weird is, and this is more my fault than anything else, but I purchased the cheapest union ball valves I could find off of Amazon. And I think 2 of these were like $7. That's more my fault. I was like, oh, that's a good deal. So I bought a total of 4 of them. And the first thing I noticed when I was trying to hook one up is once I got it all plumbed in, and I don't have the part anymore, but once I started turning this right here, literally on one of them, just literally cracked and fell right off. So looking at it, this is a very, very thin wall, very, very cheaply made. I will have an update video on this build as well once I get this locked in and worked out. But right now, everything is off on the manifold. It is connected, it can run, but if you actually turn this on, for whatever reason, once you start turning this, there has to be like a poor seal or something inside here, because then it starts literally, there's a drip leak that happens right underneath the handle of the union ball valve. So I purchased these as a replacement, so there will be an additional build for that coming later on. I am also running the KH director as well. The KH director has been rock solid. It's a little early to monitor my KH in this tank since there's really nothing growing. I don't have any corals or anything yet, and it's still kind of a new tank and it's still in its cycle process. But the reagents also have a shelf lifetime, and I have it set up to just test once a day for now. That way, if anything does happen to the tank, whether the pH spikes or the pH decreases, I kind of have the KH director monitoring as well. So that way I have history or something to kind of go and like, well, why did my pH go up? Oh, okay, well, my pH went up because the KH director took a test at noon, and well, hey, now my alkalinity is higher than what it was yesterday. So I'm not using it for alkalinity control or anything right now because there's no purpose for that. But if you look in behind the wall, I'll see if I did run some lines back there. So that big hole is actually a drain line. So that way I could just stick whatever I need to stick in there that needs to be drained into the sewer. And that actually runs all the way back down to the basement into a I think it's a 3.5 inch drain pipe that's on the ground. So more information to come on that. That's all part of the salt water mixing station build. That's where all of that goes back to, but I will follow up and do another video on that as well. So as for heaters, there is the ozone. There is the jumbo ozone air dryer. So this line actually runs, this is where the clean air comes in, and it's usually not recommended for ozone to run the line in your sump because it'll be pulling in moist air and you'll use a lot of your air dryer media in there to kind of help dry that. So I ended up running a longer one, and it goes outside of the tank and kind of more toward the end of the tank and up underneath it. So I also run the Inkbird controller. The Inkbird, this tank has two 600-watt heaters. The Inkbird is only controlling one of them. And then I have the GHL controlling the second one, because I did that for a couple of reasons. One, that would be, it's not that the Inkbird couldn't handle two 600-watt heaters, but it's more on the power demand, asking my GHL energy bar to pull 12 to let the Inkbird run with two heaters and power it via 1200 watts on one single outlet. So I didn't feel comfortable doing that, so I spread the load across a couple of different of their power bars. But other than that, that's really all what's going on with this tank right now, and more to come as this thing comes to life. All right, thanks.